Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I'm going to be explaining pulmonary circulation the simplest way possible, and inshallah you'll understand it after watching this video. So first, we begin with differences in resistance between lung and total resistance. The first concept I need you to know very well is that at rest, PVR, which is resistance in the lungs, is 16 times less than TPR, which is your total resistance. I've written this additionally. Well, you might ask yourself, why is PVR much less than TPR? It's because vessels in the lung have a much larger radius. And we know from our hemodynamics lecture, the larger the radius, the less resistance we're going to have. Over here, since intravascular pressure and pulmonary circulation is very low, pulmonary blood flow is strongly affected by hydrostatic forces and as well as by vehicular pressures. Here, they're basically just discussing what type of pressure affects what sort of vessel. Pleural pressure affects extrapulmonary vessels. Perivascular pressure affects arteries and veins. Alveolar pressure affects alveolar capillaries. Over here, we've taken this before. Left atrial pressure is measured via pulmonary artery. So basically, what you do, you get a catheter, you put it in your pulmonary artery, and you measure its wedge pressure. And that wedge pressure is going to look like this, and this is going to be your left atrial pressure, because they're equal. Here, we're going to be talking about control of pulmonary vascular resistance. So two things affect PVR. You have your cardiac output, and you have a mechanism, which we're going to be discussing soon. So first, I need you to know is that cardiac output increasing decreases resistance. So as you can see here, increased cardiac output decreases resistance. And I've written over here, as blood flow increases, meaning cardiac output, blood pressure increases. And as blood pressure increases, you get wider vessels, meaning more diameter. And like we've said before, more diameter means more radius means less resistance. Here it's the opposite, decreased cardiac output. You have low blood flow, means decreased cardiac output. You have less stretched blood vessels, so they're not that stretched. So you're going to get a smaller radius, meaning higher resistance. Here's the mechanism we were talking about. So basically, you have a pulmonary arteriole, and you have a bunch of blood vessels that are in parallel. This is a parallel circuit. You have blood flowing through these ones, but these ones, you can see, they're really thin. They're sort of contracted, so no blood is flowing through them. In recruitment, more blood is flowing through these, and previously unopened ones, blood is also flowing through them. So you have more ones being added. And as we know, in a parallel circuit, I've written over here, resistance decreases as more circuits are added. So you have this, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 circuits. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and more being additionally added. That's in recruitment, which decreases resistance. That's written over here. A decrease in PVR is either caused by widening of already perfused vessels, like this one, or by opening of closed vessels, recruitment. So you're recruiting new ones. We've discussed this. And now we're going to be talking about how lung volume affects pulmonary vascular resistance. So basically, you have a lung volume and you have a resistance graph. And you have three graphs. First graph we're going to be talking about is the extraalveolar one. So, this is the hardest one. I've written over here. Extraalveolar, by the way, means the vessels and arteries outside an alveoli. These vessels and arteries, not arteries, I mean vessels, they increase in diameter as lung volume increases because they stretch. As they stretch, as lung volume increases, they stretch, meaning the radius gets bigger, meaning the resistance decreases. That's why we can see that the resistance has decreased. I've written that over here, so you can read it on your free time. And on the other hand, you have the alveolar, which is quite the opposite. So we have two graphs to help you understand it better. This is alveolar, and you have capillaries inside these alveoli. And when you have low lung volume, they're quite thick. These capillaries are quite thick. However, when you have a high lung volume, the alveoli stretches. That's why you can see arrows pointing in these directions, therefore compressing these capillaries. That's why you can see arrows pointing towards them. Here, they're quite thick. Now they're getting compressed, which increases resistance. That's why for the alveoli graph, it has increased, because the resistance has increased because you're compressing these capillaries. And last but not least, we have the total graph, which combines both of these graphs. And once you've combined both of these graphs, you get this one. So basically, you can notice that the resistance decreases ever so slightly, then increases. And you might ask yourself why. Well, I've written over here. During the early part of inhalation, which is like right about here, the reduction in resistance in extraalveolar vessels has a stronger effect on total PVR than the increase in resistance in alveolar capillaries. So overall PVR decreases initially. So what it's basically saying is that it decreases slightly because the recoil force and this decrease in resistance is greater than the compression of this at the start. And that's why it decreases at the start. Then it shoots back up, the resistance shoots back up because the compression forces overtake the widening of these vessels. That's why the resistance increases. And to help you better visualize it and understand it better, I want you to take a deep inspiration. Once you've taken that deep inspiration, you'll notice that at the end of that inspiration, it becomes very difficult to bring in more lung volume. And that's why resistance has increased, because it's very difficult to breathe in more lung volume. Whilst at the start in FRC, forgot to tell you this, you have the lowest resistance, so it's very easy to bring in lung volume. So at resting, which is FRC over here, resistance is the lowest. So it's quite easy to bring in lung volume. And you could see this, you could try this on your own. Over here, this is how you control pulmonary vascular resistance. So basically, you have hypoxia, which means lack of oxygen. And you have two regions of alveoli. In this region, you have hypoxia, but however, in this region, you have a lot of oxygen. What your body does to adjust for regional hypoxia, regional means in one area. We'll move on to generalized, which is everywhere soon. But what your body does is it constricts vessels going to this part of the alveoli because there's no oxygen. The goal of blood coming to an alveoli is for gas exchange. If it's hypoxic and there is no oxygen, then there's not going to be any gas exchange, which causes blood to come over here. And since this is getting constricted, more blood's coming over here, so more gas exchange. That's regional, where one area of your lung has low oxygen. In generalized hypoxia, this is bad because all the regions in your lung are hypoxic, which causes all the vessels to constrict. All these vessels constricting causes hypertension. You can see over here, global hypoxia is over. May develop pulmonary hypertension and eventually right heart failure. So, additionally, since all these vessels are getting constricted, in the capillary, you have a buildup of pressure and a buildup of blood. And this causes edema because blood is leaking out of this capillary due to all the vessels constricting. Here, it's basically explaining and telling you how this works. So it's basically hypoxia, lack of oxygen, inhibits a K channel, depolarizes the membrane, and therefore constricts the vessel. And this is very important. Hypoxia in systemic circulation is opposite to pulmonary circulation. Systemic hypoxia causes vasodilation, whilst pulmonary hypoxia causes vasoconstriction. So basically, if you have an area of your body that's hypoxic in the systemic circulation, what your blood vessels do is they vasodilate to have more blood going there. However, in pulmonary circulation, if there's not enough oxygen in an area, your body vasoconstricts. Repeat this again. Pulmonary hypoxia causes vasoconstriction. Systemic causes vasodilation. Over here, these are reflexes in your body for perfusion and ventilation. So, imagine you have two regions of alveoli, region 1 and region 2. One region gets a lot of oxygen, meaning high ventilation, and less perfusion. Perfusion means blood flow. And the other region gets more perfusion, but less ventilation. So they're quite opposite in each other. So I'll repeat this again. You have a thick arrow over here, meaning more oxygen, and a thin one. So high ventilation, but low perfusion. As you can see, it's a bit thin over here, meaning low blood flow. But in region 2, you have less oxygen, less ventilation, and high perfusion, so it's thick. What your body does is that it causes bronchoconstriction in region 1. So this constricts, the area around it constricts, causing more oxygen to move over here. In this area, this area vasoconstricts, and this area bronchoconstricts, and region 2 vasoconstricts because it wants more blood to come over here. So this area wants more oxygen to come to region 2, and region 2 wants more blood to go to region 1. So what your body does is, what I've said, region 1, bronchioles contract, move more oxygen to region 2. Region 2, vessels constrict, making more blood flow to region 1. So, responses, bronchoconstriction, vasoconstriction, and these two mechanisms of bronchoconstriction and vasoconstriction improve effectiveness of gas exchange, because you essentially want the same amount of ventilation and blood for all regions. You don't want more blood in this region and more oxygen in that region, etc. So what your body does is it bronchoconstricts region 1, vasoconstricts region 2 to make them more equal. Yeah, like we said before, these two mechanisms improve the effectiveness of gas exchange. Over here, you have distribution of perfusion in the lung in an upright position. Keep this in mind, this is in an upright position. So at the top, zone 1, you have zero perfusion because this is getting constricted because the alveolar pressure is very high. Let me explain to you. So basically you have the alveolar pressure, PA, and you have the pressure in the pulmonary artery, PPA, and you have pressure in the pulmonary vein, PPV. Here, in zone 1, the alveolar pressure is the highest, so it compresses this and no blood is flowing. Here, in zone 2, you have minimal perfusion, so minimal blood flow. The constriction is happening right around here, but it's not fully flowing, the blood isn't fully flowing because the alveolar pressure is still higher than the venous pressure. That's why it's not fully flowing. Over here, however, in zone 3, you have total perfusion. So the alveolar pressure is the least, whilst the arterial pressure and the venous pressure is greater than it. That's why it's fully flowing. Perfusion increases as you move from top to bottom. No perfusion, minimal, and total. And yeah, this is also very important. Because of gravity, pressure increases as you move down the lung. So pressure is the highest over here for arterial and venous, and lowest for alveolar. So as you move down the lung, pressure of PPA and PPV is the highest. Over here, you have anatomical shunts that are natural. They are in all of us. They're not like patent ductus arteriosus, where you have to get a surgery and so on. They occur in all human beings. So for coronary circulation, your venous blood enters the left ventricle through the Thebesian vein. This is the Thebesian vein, and this is coronary circulation. So venous blood enters through it. So deoxygenated blood is mixing with oxygenated blood. And bronchial circulation, venous blood enters the left atrium through bronchial veins. For the coronary, it was Thebesian, now it's bronchial. So this is the bronchial vein, right here, and it's entering the circulation, and it's mixing with oxygenated blood, that's red, in the bronchial circulation. What this basically does is these shunts only affect 1 or 2% of total cardiac output, so it's quite negligible. It's not like patent ductus arteriosus where most of the blood is going there. It's only 1 to 2%. Over here, yeah, I've watched the previous recordings and he said that Dr. Paul already went through this, so I doubt this is gonna come. But if you know this concept from embryology, you'll be able to get the questions right. Same thing for here. He mentioned that we've already done this with Dr. Abdul Jabbar, so this is basically the same concept of pulmonary edema and the plasma proteins and etc. And yeah, that's about it. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, see ya.